Good afternoon. I'm Chief Pamela Smith of the Metropolitan Police Department.
All right, guys, if it's 1 o'clock, you know what time it is. It's time for the Fox 5 Live Zone. And boy, do we have a busy show lined up for you today. Of course, we are following breaking news out of Northwest D.C., where just a little while ago, an officer-involved shooting, not only was it involved with an officer, but we are now learning that it was fatal as well. Also on the show today, it's a story that literally rocked this entire area. It happened about a week ago. I'm referring to that explosion that happened in Anacostia. A daycare literally destroyed. We're going to get a one-on-one with the owner of that daycare center and, well, what she's asking for you to do. And then last but not least, it's an epidemic right here in our area. I'm referring to fentanyl. Yes, it continues to plague us. And now a local official says enough is enough, and we'll get a chance to chit-chat with her as well. All that and more coming up today on the Fox 5 Live Zone. You are officially in the LZ. All right, guys, just after 1 o'clock right now, and gosh, what an amazing day that we're experiencing. Of course, if you dealt with all that cold last week, it's a little bit of a big difference when you get a chance to deal with some warmer weather. That's the case for today. Emmy, if we can, let's put up a picture of whether the National Harbor, the wharf. There we go. It's the National Harbor right there. You see mostly cloudy skies throughout the day. Here's the good news. We're going to top out in the low to mid 50s. That is mild for this time of the year, believe it or not. Do yourself a favor, by the way. Grab an umbrella just in case we get some scattered showers. Well, as you heard me make mention off the top of the show, we are still following this breaking news out of Northwest D.C., where a little while ago, about 9:45 this morning, we got word of a fatal officer-involved shooting. This happening at North Capitol Street under the New York Avenue Bridge. At last check, we were told that streets between M and P remain closed. New York Avenue remains open. Just a minute ago, the chief of police had a press conference, and here is what she had to say.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Pamela Smith of the Metropolitan Police Department. We are on the scene of a fatal officer-involved shooting in the 1300 block of North Capitol Street. I want to start off by saying any loss of life is tragic, and I want to give and extend my condolences to the family of the individual who lost his life on today. Right now, we are in the preliminary stages of the investigation, but here's what I can share with you right now. At approximately 6:43 a.m. this morning, officers and D.C. Fire and EMS responded to the 2500 block of Benning Road Northeast for a 911 call of a man in crisis. Officers responded to the scene. One of the initial responding officers is a trained officer, crisis intervention officer, and has a background as an auxiliary negotiator with our emergency response team. Our officers encountered the individual, and for nearly 2 hours, they engaged in crisis intervention conversation with him. Through that conversation, the individual was transported by EMS to a local hospital for additional treatment. During the EMS transport, the individual became agitated and assaulted a firefighter paramedic inside the ambulance as they came through the tunnel at the North Capitol Street. The individual then jumped out of the ambulance, and additional officers were requested to respond to the scene. As additional officers responded, the individual assaulted another responding officer. An OC spray was deployed to attempt to stop the assault and to take the individual into custody. The OC spray did not take effect, and the individual ran through traffic onto North Capitol Street and was located underneath a truck. The individual then emerged from underneath the truck with a metallic object raised in his hand. The officer gave the individual multiple loud directions to drop the object. As officers continued to give directions to the subject to drop the object, while retreating, the individual continued to move towards them with the object. At that time, one of our officers discharged his firearm. The ambulance crew immediately drove down to the bottom of the tunnel to provide life-saving efforts or measures to the individual. But unfortunately, the man has been pronounced. Agents from our internal affairs divisions are on the scene currently right now conducting the investigation. The entire case will be independently investigated by our U.S. Attorney's Office. The officer has been placed on administrative duty per departmental policy, and there were no significant injuries to other responding personnel. I'll take any questions you may have at this time.
Chief, how many shots did the officer fire?
That's still under investigation.
Chief, this person who is having this mental health crisis, where did the officers that were trying to help? Was this inside a residence? Was this out on?
This was outside. This was an initial call for the officers to respond to the address that I indicated on Benning Road. When they arrived there, they made contact with the individual, and during that level of communication, it was quite a significant time that they were really trying to engage this individual in conversation, because we were told that he was suffering from a mental health crisis. Again, as I stated before, one of the officers who was engaging in conversation with him is a crisis intervention officer, and he was engaged with him, and the subject took off. The subject at that time decided that he was going to be transported to a local hospital.
This all happened outside on the street, or was it inside?
It was outside.
It was outside.
Yes, sir, and it's still under investigation.
Was that firearm recovered?
I'm sorry?
Was any firearm?
That's still under investigation. There was a metal object in his hand. I did not, at this point, we're going to, as we continue to go through the investigation, we'll determine what that object was.
Was the crisis intervention officer in the ambulance at the time? And can you walk us through what the typical procedure might be if one of these officers with crisis specialty arrives at the scene and then transported? Is it common? Is it policy for that officer to remain in the ambulance?
Well, oftentimes whenever an individual voluntarily decides that he or she wants to be transported, officers do not ride in the back of the ambulance with the individual and the paramedics, but we will follow behind the ambulance to ensure that they make it to the location. What happened here was the officers was not inside the ambulance, but they did follow the truck, which is why it was an easier response time when the individual decided he was going to take flight from the back of the vehicle.
So the officer who followed, the crisis intervention officer, was that the officer who fired his or her weapon, or was that a responding officer?
That the officer is the crisis intervention officer, was the one who responded to the discharge's firearm.
Typically, Chief, isn't it true though that when you follow an ambulance, it's because that person is going to be in custody?
That's not necessarily true.
Why would the officer be following?
Well, that is part of our policies and procedures. We do follow the ambulance to the hospital. That is a part of our policy and procedures.
Even though the person wasn't in custody for any reason?
That is correct. That is correct.
So the ambulance was on, is where it is now. Did the subject at one point
Assaulted,
over?
the subject assaulted the paramedic and firefighter that was inside the back of the vehicle, and then lunges out of the vehicle and then runs into the street. And while running into the street, the officers obviously tried to attempt to take custody of him. The individual engages one of our officers. An officer utilizes his pepper spray, and it did not take effect. And the attempt was really to take the person into custody. It just didn't take effect. And he got up and he started running again, ended up underneath a truck. We gave very, very strong commands for the person to come out from underneath the truck. When he came out with a metal object raised in his hand, and we asked him very loudly and very clearly to put the object down. But at that point, he decided to attempt to engage our officers.
You've been on the scene for a while, so I imagine you recovered that metal object. So can you say whether
That's still under investigation. It's under investigation.
We'll take two more.
was this individual known to law enforcement, or this particular crisis officer at all before this incident?
We had not, that particular crisis officer had not had any engagement with him, but that's still under investigation as to whether or not we've had some engagement with him in the prior encounters.
About the crisis officer's background with the department, how long has this person been working in this particular role as a crisis officer?
Well, all of our officers are trained in either crisis intervention, as a crisis intervention officer, or as a mental health first aid officer. Most of our officers have received that particular training. If they go to the crisis intervention officer training, it's a 40-hour training, and then if they go through the mental health first aid training, that's a 24-hour course that our officers attend. And so the majority of officers have that training in their background.
But for this particular officer, the distinction to earn the title of crisis officer, what other kinds of additional training is something?
I can't hear you, ma'am.
Is there any kind of additional training that officers receive in order to become a crisis response officer?
A crisis intervention officer, the same amount of training that I provided to you before, 40 hours of training.
Can Chief Donnelly tell us how his EMT is doing?
Absolutely.
So our firefighter, paramedic, and firefighter EMT that are on the unit are working with our peer support team right now. The injury to the member that was assaulted is not major, but this is a tragic situation, and our condolences do go to the family. And we're taking care of our people. We have some processes that they'll follow, but they did a good job today, and it's just hard.
Chief, can you typically tell us during a transport how many EMS paramedics are inside? Where are they located?
Sure. A typical crew for a transport is 2 people, one driving and one in the back.
And the door is always open in the back?
So
Unlocked?
there's a space between the two, and typically that's open. They were able to communicate that there was a problem and they needed to pull over. They pulled over. And
Did your firefighter EMT radio for help come from the driver?
so I think we'll have to figure all of that out in the investigation. Right now, I don't have that information.
Was she injured?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Anything more on the assault we're hearing from you?
I don't have all. I think all of those details need to come through the investigation.
She received hospitalization.
No, nobody went to the hospital. They're minor injuries.
In a situation like this, is a person who has experienced a crisis that you all are transported, are they patted down or searched for any weapons prior to being loaded into the ambulance?
So I think each situation is different. We don't typically do a search of anybody. And I think each situation is different, and what happened here will come out as part of the review of the incident.
Did police today?
I have no idea.
Are you
Thank
asking
you, guys.
me?
Thank you, Robert.
That is a part of the investigation. So,
You can't say definitively whether or not this person is down.
well, what I can say, it's part of the investigation, and as a part of our policy, we do search individuals before they get into police cars and before they get into fire and EMS vehicles. But it's under investigation at this point.
Right on. Thank you.
All right.
All right, once again, guys, the officer-involved shooting taking place in Northwest D.C. That was the police chief, Pamela Smith, addressing the media with regard to the latest on what's happening. It is definitely a fluid situation and something we will continue to follow right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. How about a moment of happiness? Let's do that, especially after a story like that. We're going to do that next. We're cooking with Cuomo. Yes, Aaron Cuomo going to stop by right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We'll be right back. Can you just
One, two, one, two, one, two. All right, so that's mixed out. You got anything?
So I think we'll have to figure all of that out in the investigation. Right now, I don't have that information.
Was she injured?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Anything more on the assault we're hearing from you?
I don't have all. I think all of those details need to come through the investigation.
She received hospitalization.
No, nobody went to the hospital. They're minor injuries. think each situation is different, and what happened here will come out as part of the review of the incident.
Did police today?
I have no idea.
Are you asking me?
Thank you,
That is a part of the investigation. So,
You can't say definitively whether or not this person is.
well, what I can say, it's part of the investigation, and as a part of our policy, we do search individuals before they get into police cars and before they get into fire and EMS vehicles. But it's under investigation at this point.
Right on. Thank you.
All right.
Come from the driver.
So I think
Hey, Alex. Can you hear me, sir? I can't hear you. 1 second. Click the mute button, even if it says mute. Click it again. Just want to make sure I can hear you. Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you. So wave. Alex, can you hear me? If so, wave. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we addressed happened to be your concerns. And we got an email from folks that happen to be living in D.C. and said, well, Southeast to be more specific, and said, you know what, we're dealing with an eyesore. Now, at first you would think, well, this is just a regular problem, just an everyday issue. Quite honestly, that's not the case. It is now garnering media attention, and a lot of folks are actually talking about it as well. Joining us now is Mr. D.L. Humphrey. He is an ANC commissioner and kind enough to join us on the show. Mr. Humphrey, thank you so much for coming on the Fox 5 Live Zone.
Thank you for having me.
And so let me walk you through this and walk our audience through this. So it was quite some time ago where a resident in Southeast D.C. actually came forward and said, well, hey, there happens to be a plot of land that is now being developed. And as a result of that, trees are being cut down, a building was constructed. And, well, after that happened, that person didn't have a view at all. Not only did that person not have a view, but a number of other folks also said that they too didn't have a view. Come to find out, the developer has a shaky past, has been fined for violating lead-based paint laws, and to my understanding, has said, you know what, we're still going to move forward with this. You heard me touch on it. Is that the gist of what's happening here?
Yes, that's the gist of it. It goes, unfortunately, deeper because this particular property, it was acquired, I believe, back in 2016. It was lost in a tax sale from the lady that failed to pay her taxes. And the resident actually has been taking care of this lot for over 60 years. And so as far as maintaining, cutting the grass, placing shrubbery there, her and her deceased father placed a tree. And due to this construction, due to this tax sale, the resident, the tree was lifted, was uprooted, and it just has been a complete eyesore for the Penn Branch neighborhood. We tried to fight very hard. We was actually told from Department of Building that you definitely touched on one of the biggest issues that District Properties has a shaky past. The developer, I believe his name is Omar. He used to work for the Department of Consumer Regulatory Affairs. And to be honest with you, I have no qualms in saying this. He knows how to wiggle his way around the process. And it's been very disheartening for the residents of the Penn Branch community.
So what happens now? I mean, obviously, this is an issue that a number of people have spoken up about. You are now involved. So I would say, lawmakers are getting into it. What do we do, or where do you go from here?
Well, now the property is listed as a vacant property. It is, like I said before, it's very disheartening because we was told by Department of Buildings, I believe if my records is correct, we went to on July the 8th, I'm sorry, on June the 8th, we was told from the Department of Buildings that they was going to revoke the license. And then by some kind of way, somehow on June the 3rd, we was told that it was then reviewed by senior management and said that, that the permits was zoned correct. The problem is that R1, our residents in Pembroke community, majority of our homes are zone R1. That's the highest when it comes to zoning, when it comes to building, and so in community in residential neighborhoods, and so then it turns into this house now is deemed a R3, so it shouldn't even be there. Be completely honest with you. The home now has not been worked on in 3 months. We was able to get a stop work order based upon the many efforts that our community has done, and make sure that, hey, look, the next thing that I want to do is speak with the council on trying to get this property condemned. And I think that there needs to be a real investigation launched into district properties. I do not believe that they should ever be able to acquire properties in the District of Columbia based upon this shaky past.
Yeah, obviously an issue that we're going to be dealing with for quite some time. Sir, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the Fox 5 Live Zone, taking time out of your busy schedule to make sure that you bring more awareness to the issue.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Once again, we've been chatting with none other than Mr. D.L. Humphrey, the Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner for that area in Southeast with regard to an issue so many residents have come forward to say, we want justice. All right. How cool was that, guys? That's one of the interviews we got a chance to actually conduct yesterday, an issue that continues to plague the community. And that's the real cool thing about the Fox 5 Live Zone. We talk about what you want to hear right here on the show. Speaking of talking about what you want to hear, how about what you want to see? None other than Aaron Cuomo joining us on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Hi, welcome. It's your first time.
I am so excited to join you, Guy, for my first appearance on the Live Zone. I love what you're doing with the show, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. That puts a smile on my face. When Aaron gives it the thumbs up, that means we're good to go.
Good to go.
You just wrapped up the Lion Lunch Hour. It's been a busy day for you.
It has been a very busy day of eating. We had Craven Flavas on with Chef Mike. He's an amazing local caterer. He's doing big things for the Super Bowl tailgate party.
Nice.
So if you don't want to cook for yourself, reach out to him.
Oh, well, speaking of Super Bowl, that's the million-dollar question. What are we cooking? And before you answer, for me, it's all about the wings.
Now, do you make your own wings, or do you get wings to go?
I do both. I mean, so I'm a Buffalo Wild Wings fan, but at the same time, there's nothing like doing your own, and so I'll barbecue a little bit. Yes, I barbecue in February, guys.
There's nothing wrong with that. The heart wants what the heart wants, Guy.
So it's Buffalo Wild Wings, and then blue cheese. I'm not a ranch guy.
I could go either way. I like ranch or blue cheese with the wings, and I'm a drumsticks girl, not the flats.
Oh, yeah, all in.
Okay, good, because Chef Mike was saying how a lot of women always like the flats, and I was like, really? Because Autumn Joy and I were co-hosting earlier. We both like the drumsticks, and he made these delicious sticky wings. They reminded me of just like childhood wings I would get.
Oh, that's awesome. So we got wings. For me, I would also say pizza's probably big on my list as well.
I like a good thin crust or Neapolitan style pizza.
Okay, wow.
How about you?
I need to be invited to eat with Aaron more, guys.
Come on over. Seriously, our kitchen's almost set up, ready to go. But yeah, I think Super Bowl, part of the fun is watching the halftime show, the commercials. Obviously, the game counts. We'll find out who's going to be in soon.
Yep.
I'm excited to watch it, but I always like the food. We did crab cake sliders today with Chef Mike. They were good. He had Taco Bell sauce. You can actually get to go in these big containers, and he drizzled it inside, and that made such a difference in flavor.
Wow. And by the way, we should make mention that Aaron is, full disclosure, an Eagles fan, correct?
Yes, I am an Eagles fan.
And she's standing next to a Commanders fan. We're only doing that because we work together.
You have to understand, Guy, that my boyfriend is a huge Commanders fan.
Right.
He grew up in the area, and I've gone to several games with him, and I didn't wear my Eagles shirt, and this caused some controversy, but I went to the Commanders-Eagles game with him because he's like, please, Aaron, and I said, sure, and everyone said, rep your team no matter what.
Well, that means you're a good sport. Yesterday, you got a chance to hang out at one of the premier restaurants.
Yes.
Is it called, or they featured something known as the Tower? Is that what it is?
Yes, so it's this place called Eat Bergs. They have a few locations. I visited their West End location. They went mega viral on TikTok and Instagram because content creators would come in and video these towers and get millions of views. use. It started with a chicken finger and French fry tower. They went to waffles and chicken tower as well with like fruit, powdered sugar, syrup, and now they're doing Wagyu beef slider towers where you dip your little slider in a bowl of nacho cheese.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, did you bring any back? That's the question.
I nibbled on everything, and can I just say, in addition to that, they have drink towers now with spritzes. So imagine we go out to brunch, right? We're hanging out with a group of friends. They bring you a tower of drinks, and you each get to pick one. They do espresso martini tower, and one of them had tequila in it. Have you ever had an espresso martini with tequila?
I will now.
I was so blown away. I didn't expect to like it, and I loved it. The guy, Brandon, who's the CEO and founder, he said that his wife came up with the tower idea, and he perfected it.
Wow, that is just awesome. You know, I got to tell you, you get the best assignments. And I'm curious, because you visit so many restaurants, do you have, I guess it's not fair to say a favorite, but maybe a top 3 or 2 that you enjoy going to?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to pick a favorite because DC, the DMV, has so many incredible restaurants. I love Philomena because that's the first restaurant my Aunt Nancy took me to when I was interviewing here at Fox 5 like 8 years ago. She announced to the restaurant I was interviewing at Fox 5. So we've had a special relationship ever since. I also love Wingo's in Glover Park because I lived there for years. So that was my neighborhood bar where I would go and watch a game, grab a Bloody Mary and some wings and hang out. So I always like neighborhood spots like that, but there's so many good places to eat in DC. Where do you like to go?
For me, quite honestly, anything Italian, anything Thai. I'm a big Thai fan.
Thai
There's
is
a
good.
restaurant in Old Town Alexandria. It's, I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but anytime it's Thai, I'm all in.
Oh, Thai food is so good. There's so many great places in DC as well in the area to grab any kind of cuisine that you want, right? And it's really fun. For me, I always prefer Italian isn't my #1 choice, but anything is good to me, right? In terms of eating, especially ambiance. Part of the fun of going out to eat is going with a group of people, sharing drinks. I'm one of those people that doesn't want one big entree. I want a bunch of appetizers and to share everything.
And that's why she is the queen when it comes to featuring and tasting, eating, and everything right here in the DMV. Thank you so much for stopping by the Live Zone, Erin. This is so. I feel like I'm hanging out with a celebrity now. How cool is this, guys?
Please, I feel like I'm hanging out with a celebrity, and next time I'll save you a plate from Lion Lunch Hour and bring it to you because I feel bad showing up empty-handed.
Awesome. See how cool she is, guys.
But the crew, we destroyed those wings. They were really good from earlier.
The one and only Erin Cuomo. Of course, you can watch her weekdays right here on Fox 5. Of course, Fox 5 Lion Lunch Hour. And, well, I guess you're touring the city as well, so you'll see her out and about as well. So, Erin.
And with that, can I just ask for one request?
Please.
Reach out to me on social media. Let me know a spot I should visit because the more the merrier. I need new locations.
Wow, I love it. You should love it as well. All right, guys, we'll give it up for Erin Cuomo one more time. We'll be right back. When we come back, we're talking with DC Central Kitchen and the amazing work they're doing right in our community. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. You're officially in the LZ.
I'm reassured by the number of tabs.
The oh, we can hear him. I still can't hear him. Alex.
I hear him, so there's audio.
Okay, and then what about, let me go to Dr. Bobby and tell him we'll be with him in just 1 second, please. All right, guys, it's just about 1:30 right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. You are officially in the LZ. Some of the top stories we are following: that officer-involved shooting in Northwest D.C., the Chief of Police, Pamela Smith, speaking moments ago. We're going to get you the latest on that throughout the show. Also, we are just getting word from our news desk that perhaps the county executive in Montgomery County has now actually spoken with regard to the issue surrounding the school's superintendent, Dr. McKnight. We're going to get some information to you about that as well. In the meantime, how about we put another smile on your face, guys? As you all know, there's nothing like giving back and giving back in a major way, and that is exactly what the DC Central Kitchen continues to do day in and day out. Oh, by the way, shall I make mention that they were just awarded over $1 million? And here to tell us all about it is a guy that I'm sure is smiling from ear to ear as well, Mr. Alex Justice Moore, the Chief Development Officer at DC Central Kitchen. Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show, sir.
It's a joy to be with you today, guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when we were corresponding via email, and it's as if all your correspondence happened to be in capital letters because you were just so excited about what's going on. Folks that are hearing about this for the first time, why don't you tell us about, first of all, what you all do, and then can you believe you got $1 million donation?
Absolutely. You know, at DC Central Kitchen, we have been feeding the soul of the city for 35 years. We got our start when a nightclub manager named Robert Egger decided he wanted to turn that traditional soup kitchen model on its head. He wanted to recover food that was going to waste in our community, bring it to a central kitchen, provide those healthy meals all across the community so people could access both healthy food, but empowerment and a chance to move forward in their lives. And most importantly, train people for culinary careers so they could be part of our city's economy and part of our city's future. And so we've been carrying that mission forward now for 3.5 decades. I came here as an intern 18 years ago this month and fell in love with the place. And we are even more excited about the next 35 years, in part because of this incredible donation towards our Healthy Corners program.
Yeah, and that Healthy's Corner program has really given back. I mean, nearly 500,000 units of fruits and vegetables, and will actually go to DC corner stores. That shows you that it's really making a difference. I mean, it's tangible. You could feel it, see it, in this case, taste it.
Absolutely, and it tastes great. Still, Guy, in our city, there are too many neighbors who don't have easy access to grocery stores. We have 160,000 residents living east of the Anacostia River in Ward 7 and Ward 8, and they only access 4 grocery stores. And so imagine trying to feed a family or a senior trying to travel 2-3 buses to be able to get the healthy, fresh produce they need to maintain their health and live their best life. So we set out back in 2011 trying to say, what assets does our community already have to take on this challenge of food deserts and food disparities? And the answer was corner stores. And corner stores were struggling to keep healthy food on the shelves because no one would deliver fruits and vegetables to them. They didn't have refrigeration units to hold those healthy fruits and vegetables when they were fresh and to help them continue to look great and taste great for their customers. And so we just went about solving those gaps and solving those challenges. And so now we've got 53 corner stores selling fruits and vegetables that people want and deserve.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you touched on that. You made mention of the word gap, and when I was doing my research, I discovered that there is something called a grocery gap, and that's exactly what you all are addressing for folks that, you know, perhaps are like me and said, hey, what is that exactly? Can you address that?
Not every community has a grocery store, and what we see in Washington, D.C. is the higher your income is, the less you have to go in terms of distance to a grocery store. And so we actually see long-term health disparities as a result. You know, in upper Northwest Washington, D.C., you've got more than 15 full-service grocery stores. And across the city, just 10 miles away, only 3 or 4 that you can easily get to. As a result, there's a 21-year difference in life expectancy between those 2 areas. And so that's unacceptable. We have to make sure people can make a healthy choice easily every single day, whether that's a school kid on the way to school trying to get a healthy snack, whether it's a senior who wants to maintain their health, maybe manage their diabetes and be able to get a healthy fruit or vegetable. Healthy Corners is a great community-based and, more importantly, community-led solution to a long-standing problem.
Yeah, obviously you all are doing what you can to give back. If I want to give back, people watching want to give back, what can they do in order to team up with you to make that happen?
We have lots of ways to give back. You can go to dccentralkitchen.org/volunteer and come and help us slice and dice fresh fruits and vegetables that'll be used in our corner stores, as well as frontline youth agencies, homeless serving agencies all across DC. We have volunteer shifts available 7 days a week, and we would love to see you down here at our brand new headquarters in Southwest Washington, DC. And you can join the community that is now led by Chef Jose Andres of DC Central Kitchen Donors. Chef Andres announced a $1 million commitment to the Healthy Corners program on our 35th anniversary. And if you want to join him in being that very cool DC Central Kitchen donor, you can visit us at dccentralkitchen.org/donate.
I love it. Not necessarily don't know if I'm going to come down and do the chopping. I'm kind of not as coordinated. I want to make sure I chop the carrots and not my finger, but I will try to contribute as much as I can as well. Once again, we've been discussing this with none other than Mr. Alex Justin Moore, Chief Development Officer at DC Central Kitchen. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. How cool is that, guys? One of the many cool stories that's happening right here in the DMV. Speaking of cool stories, we're trying to combat cancer, and we're doing that in a rather unique way. Yes, tobacco. Well, as you know, it leads to cancer, and now the American Lung Association released its 22nd State of Tobacco Control Report. We're going to speak with Dr. Bobby to find out exactly what it's all about when we come back. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone, guys. You're still in the LZ. Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Oh, awesome. How do I correctly pronounce your last name, sir? I want to make sure I get that correct.
We Americanized it, so Luis Perón.
Very good, sir. Anything
and how do I call you?
My name is Guy, but I guess where you're from, you would call me Guy, but Guy is just fine.
Guy. We pronounce it Guy.
Dr. Perón,
right?
Yes, that is correct, sir. Anything in specific you want me to touch on during the interview?
Up to you. It's about beating an incumbent, I would presume.
Correct.
And it's not live. We tape it, right?
That is correct. Well, no, this is live.
Oh, it's live. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
You'll be just
fine.
And
when are we going live?
In about 1 minute.
Oh, so what's the first question?
First question is going to be, obviously, with what happened yesterday, you say New Hampshire may not be it for Nikki Haley. Discuss that. Talk about that. I'm going to ask you about the book first, though.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure.
Well, guys, welcome back. It's now 1:37 right here, and you saw the graphic on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Thanks so much for sticking around with us this afternoon. We're going to get to that tobacco report by the American Lung Association that was released momentarily. In the meantime, a lot going on in politics, and when it comes to politics and knowing things that are happening, well, I got to tell you, this gentleman knows it all. I'm referring to Dr. Luis Perón. He is the author of Beat the Incumbent: Proven Strategies and Tactics to Win Elections. And of course, he's joining us right now on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Dr. Perón, thank you so much for coming on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
It's funny, this show was full disclosure, and so while we were in break, I said, well, how do I correctly pronounce your name? And you said, well, we Americanized it, and then I said, well, I guess in that case, my name is Guy. If you want to call me Guy, that's just fine, sir. We truly appreciate you coming on the show today. You heard me make mention of the book. It is the Beat the Incumbent: Proven Strategies and Tactics to Win Elections. I couldn't tell you, this book, it's definitely prime time, and definitely a time in which a lot of folks should probably pick it up and give it a good read. What is it that you were trying to come across overall?
How to beat an incumbent, which is difficult because incumbents have a lot of advantages. Usually they have a fundraising advantage, they have an advantage with respect to awareness, to media. So, and by the way, that's why I like incumbent races, but it's also very exciting to try and overcome it. So this book is actually, if you want, my professional legacy so far. I've had the opportunity to campaign and work for candidates across the globe. And I thought now, actually during Corona, now is the time to write a book.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I got a chance to peruse through it. It's very good from what I've seen thus far. If the stage is set, and perhaps it is, we will probably see Joe Biden taking on former President Donald Trump. As you stated, this is an election of two incumbents, and with that comes double haters. Explain that. I love that title, by the way.
Yes, I think you're referring to an op-ed I wrote for Real Clear Politics, and I didn't invent that term, by the way, but it refers to people who have an unfavorable opinion about both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And I think they will be the ones to decide the election. So while we talk a lot about polarization, while we talk a lot about the base, especially Trump's base, in the end, there still are independents. There are still voter in the middle, and they are the ones who usually decide U.S. presidential elections.
Yeah, well, last night we saw that obviously Nikki Haley did not reign victorious with regard to the New Hampshire primary. That title, if you will, going to former President Trump. What does this mean now for Nikki Haley? I mean, a lot of folks are saying that this is pretty much the end of the road, but perhaps you feel differently.
Well, the Republican Party is traditionally not very open to challengers. I mean, you could probably argue that in 2016, Donald Trump was a hostile takeover of the party, but even him at the beginning of the election year, he was ahead in the polls. I can't remember on the Republican side a case in recent history where the front runner at the beginning of the election year did not win the nomination. So yes, I think Haley has the money to continue. She will probably continue at least until Super Tuesday, but it looks increasingly difficult for her.
Yeah, I had a political pundit on yesterday, and one of the questions that I posed happened to be, is it somewhat standard or is it not for a number of the candidates that were actually combating former President Trump to then immediately endorse him? I mean, I don't think I've seen that ever, quite honestly, how fast that took place.
Well, actually, I have seen it, and it reminded me a bit of when Jim Clyburn dropped the hammer 4 years ago and endorsed Joe Biden, and it started an entire series of endorsements, like all other candidates rallying behind Joe Biden. And I think it was very crucial at the time, and basically delivered him the nomination because of the timing. And again, that's where I see a parallel now. It happened so fast. And I think it has helped Trump quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, sir, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Before we let you go, can I ask, what are you most proud about with regard to this book?
That I got it over the finish line. I think I've talked about it for 10 years. I've worked on it for 3 years. So I'm really proud I got it over the finish line.
Well, we're proud that you got it over the finish line, and we're so proud that you came to join us as well. Once again, we've been talking with Dr. Louis Perron, author of Beat the Incumbent, Proven Strategies and Tactics to Win Elections. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the Fox 5 Live Zone.
Anytime.
All right, guys. Once again, Dr. Perron, very cool. Got a chance to talk politics right here on the show. We're going to take a quick break. We are following several developing stories. We'll get all of that and so much more when we come right back. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. You're in the LZ. All right, guys, welcome back. You're watching the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 1:45. You are officially in the LZ, and boy, do we have a lot to cover. We are still following this developing story out of Northwest D.C., where an officer-involved shooting. We now know it was a fatal officer-involved shooting happening near the intersection of North Capitol Street and New York Avenue. MPD arrived at around 9:45 this morning. They responded to that shooting, and of course, the Chief of Police, Pamela Smith, addressing the media. We will have a replay of that coming up at the top of the hour. Also, this just in from our news desk. We are following a developing story out of Prince George's County. Officers responding to Crossland High School for the report of an armed person. Now, this is out of abundance of caution that the school was put on lockdown. So once again, that school, Crossland High School, on lockdown. Officers arrived on the scene and did not locate any firearms or recover any. And so that lockdown was then lifted. And that's just coming in as we speak. That's the beauty of the show, guys. We get a chance to find out about it when you find out about it. So as you can see, I'm reading it and you're hearing about it just as it comes in to the Fox 5 newsroom. We're going to get to all that and more. However, it's hard to believe that we're going to talk about summer. Can you believe that? I know we're still in the midst of winter, and yes, it's somewhat mild today, but the past couple of weeks, you talk about it being bone chilling. Well, how about we warm things up, and we'll do it in a rather unique way. Yes, the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program now underway. Well, at least the application process. I got a chance to speak with a representative yesterday about it. Take a look. Let's talk about the good stuff. In this case, I'm referring to the Summer Youth Program. Yes, it's hard to believe that we're talking about that already, and, well, quite honestly, because of how cold it is outside. A major announcement made yesterday with regard to some of the folks they're actually teaming up with, and here to tell us all about it is the Director of District Columbia Department of Employment Services. Boy, that's a long title. None other than Dr. Unique Morris Hughes. Good afternoon, ma'am, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so glad that you were here. So we covered this yesterday with regard to the Summer Youth Program. And I got to tell you, obviously, this was spearheaded by none other than Mayor Marion Barry quite some time ago. There are so many folks that I have bumped in throughout the years that say to me, Guy, I got my first job through that program. And I'm pretty sure I would assume that you would say the same thing. That's got to put a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's so exciting every time I bump into people and they tell me about how they had the most wonderful formative experience being in the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program. And we're excited that we're coming back for our 45th year, where over 10,000 young people will have an opportunity to get their first summer job, or maybe they're a returning student and going to be working for their third or fourth year. But it's going to be really exciting and very cool this summer.
Yeah, and you all somewhat remixed it, as my young niece would say, and that's because you teamed up with the Young Doctors Project. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Young Doctors is one of over 700 host sites that host young people for the summer for an internship career opportunity. And the Young Doctors program is phenomenal. They're based out of Howard University, and young people learn early medical health skills, the same skills that a young man who spoke yesterday had an opportunity to save someone's life based off of what he learned this summer. So we're celebrating this 45th year by highlighting all of our programs, but this Young Doctors program was so special and so unique that we selected them yesterday to highlight.
Yeah, you heard me make mention of it in my open, and that is it's hard to believe we're talking about the summer already, and it's still January.
Already.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm just sitting here
already.
astonished.
Well, the important thing that we're talking about it now is because applications open. And in less than 24 hours, I've had over 3,000 applications already. Wow. That's already up from what we were at last year. And we want all DC resident youth to apply. And they can do that by going to summerjobs.dc.gov.
And so walk me through with regard to what's needed in order to really implement that whole application process. I mean, we can discuss the age group one would need to be and exactly how he or she would go about to fill out that application.
Yep, so it's super easy. So you visit summerjobs.dc.gov, and that is where you would go to the center of the page, and you'll find all of the key dates and information. You'll click on youth. And you'll start an application. And the good news is if you applied in previous years, some of that information is already retained and in the system. You have to be a young person that's a DC resident between the ages of 14 and 24. That's right, we go up to 24 years old, and those youth between the ages of 22 and 24 years old make minimum wage. You have to prove that you're a DC resident, and that's it. It's pretty easy and pretty seamless and simple.
Yeah, Dr. Morris Hughes, it's no secret, you are on the forefront, the front lines, if you will, with regard to making sure that we create more awareness about this. You made mention of the gentleman that told a story yesterday, and I say it all the time. I'm a storytelling type of guy, and I hope you would share with us a story, perhaps of that, like the gentleman yesterday, or someone else you've encountered that this program really helped change his or her life.
Sure, I meet young people, all of the time, and adults. I have had young people who, have graduated from high school, but now they're young parents and they're in the summer youth employment program. I have young people who are interested in a career in public service, and they join the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute, which is really part of the summer youth employment program. I myself, although not from DC, worked in a summer youth employment program in another city where I worked for the IRS, and it really helped to shape my career. The young people that I encounter and the adults say the same thing. If it wasn't for the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So no matter what the story is or who I come across, male, female, 14 years old, 60 years old, they all say the same thing. Summer Youth Employment Program changed my life, and I hope will change more lives this summer.
Yeah, it gets an A+ on my list as well. I mean, you all do amazing work. You made mention of not necessarily being a native of Washington, D.C., but, well, you are now, and we accept you. We welcome you with open arms. But with that being said, I'm curious, how would you compare what we have here in the nation's capital with some of the other summer youth employment services throughout the country?
Well, I would say that I am a DC resident, 20 years strong, but we probably have the most unique, most diverse, and, most substantive program than, others across the country. What makes the program unique compared to some other large cities is that we start as young as 14 years old. We go up to 24 years of age. The types of jobs that you can work in the federal government. You can work as a camp counselor for our Parks and Rec. You can work, on a computer or in video games. You name it, the opportunity is limitless. And I think that's what really makes our programming unique. Yeah. The other thing I want to say is that we've been giving out scholarships over the last 5 years. Over 500 young people, $1.5 million we've given, and that's another unique element of our program. And so there's lots of cool things about us. I believe we have the best program in the country, and it's certainly one of the most unique and substantive.
Obviously, this is near and dear to your heart. I'm just curious, it's being spearheaded by Mayor Bowser, of course. Have you had any conversation, or is there anything you could share with us about what you and her talked about with regard to this amazing program?
Well, Mayor Bowser is the biggest supporter and cheerleader of young people in the district, and she fully believes and supports the program. Matter of fact, it was her that helped push the program to get to 24 years of age. So what I can say is that she always tells me how supportive she is, and that these are great opportunities, and she wants to make sure all young people have an opportunity to capitalize on those opportunities, and she wants to make sure myself and my staff make those opportunities available.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, as is the mayor, with regard to making sure our youth get employment and stay employed. We all remember that first job. For me, it happened to be Jerry Subs.
We do.
Flipping cheesesteaks at that, and proud of it. And, well, as they say, look at me now, and look at you now.
Look at me now.
Awesome. Once again, we've been chatting with none other than the Director of the District of Columbia Department of Employment Services, Dr. Unique Morris Hughes. Dr. Morris Hughes, thank you so much for coming on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We truly appreciate you. Thank you. All right, guys, how cool was that? Once again, referring to the summer Summer Youth Empowerment Program, or shall I say employment program, happening right here in the nation's capital. That gets you excited. You know what else gets you excited? Guys, I happened to be driving to work the other day, and all of a sudden I hear a news story about a little buzz coming to town. And I said, a buzz? Well, what's that all about? Yes, I'm referring to cicadas. And so I had to reach out to I guess I can call a colleague to actually get the latest and really address what's going on. Now, initially, I thought it would be taking place from what I heard right here in Washington, D.C. Guess what? Breaking news, guys. That's not necessarily the case. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined now by Dr. Jody Gangloff-Kaufman. She is the Senior Extension Associate at Cornell University and kind enough to join us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I got to tell you, I am so excited to have you here. If we can, let's make sure her volume is turned up. I could barely hear you, and I just want to make sure we get you loud so folks can actually hear what you have to say. I guess you just heard me make mention that I was actually driving and heard that story about how a number, not one, but two different type of cicadas would be invading Washington, D.C. And that's why I'm so glad I got a chance to reach out to you, because you corrected me and said, Guy, that's not necessarily the case. So explain what this story is all about by not one, but two different types of cicadas.
Okay, so can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So cicadas like this, the periodical cicada, are broken up into broods, and that means that different groups emerge in different years, and in huge numbers or in tiny numbers, and in different locations. So in this case, we have brood 19, there are that many broods, plus brood 13 emerging at the same time. And this is unusual because brood 19 is a 13-year cicada. It only emerges every 13 years. And brood 13 is a 17-year cicada. So that is how you get this 221-year gap between their co-emergence. They are basically the same types of cicadas. There are 4 species in this complex, but generally these are separated by time.
Yeah, it's so funny that, you know, I'm just sitting here thinking about the buzz, pun intended, surrounding this story. And it got a lot of folks up in arms. You know, I guess when you think of bugs, so many folks just get a little antsy. And I know I keep on using puns here, but I'm just sitting here thinking about it because it was such a big story here in D.C. that we decided to reach out to you as well.
Yeah, it is a big deal because this is, you know, as I said, it hasn't happened in 221 years. So the last time this happened was in 1803. And unfortunately, where I am in New York and you in DC won't see these broods emerging because they are more in the Midwest, and they'll co-emerge around northern Illinois or around basically Chicago this spring. So there'll be a lot of cicadas in Chicago.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you touched on it. But let's see, 2004. Then 2021, and then I guess the next time we really have to be concerned is 2038.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's
a long time from now.
Well, I'm telling you though, but once again, we're dealing with bugs. So for some folks, when we just said that, they're actually making plans to go on vacation, if not for an entire year during that time. I'm really curious, before I let you go, you know, when you think of these cicadas and with what you do, is this something that's always top of mind? Do you have a number of folks that actually approach you and this is the discussion? Because obviously you are an expert with regard to any and all bugs, but it just seems as if cicadas really are at the cream of the crop with regard to people feeling itchy and antsy.
Yeah, I mean, people are very curious about cicadas, and they're very visible. You know, they're one of those charismatic microfauna, as we like to call them. So they're noticeable, and they make a lot of noise. So people do either love them or hate them. You know.
Well, I got to tell you, we love it that you're here on the show. So no hate involved with that. Once again, we've been speaking with none other than Dr. Jody Gangloff-Kaufman, Senior Extension Associate at Cornell University. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show this afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. So I hope we cleared all that up. Everybody, you feel a little bit better? Because I know I do. That was a big story right here in the D.C. area, throughout the DMV,